Welcome to the Newfangled Workshop podcast. Before we get into it, let's hear a little disclaimer.
The views expressed here are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of the United States Military Academy, the United States Army, or the Department of Defense. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Newfangled Workshop podcast. It's my great pleasure to welcome you to my show, because today it's all about me. I'd like to also introduce my brothers, Matt and Stephen. Yes, there we go. Thank you, Matt. Thank you, Stephen. As you can see from my background, I've already declared today's show spam. So I hope you enjoy spam. Okay, so my brothers, what I thought we would talk about today is the difference between usability, portability, and function. It seems some people like to buy extremely heavy tools because they're super stable and cut very, very straight lines. Other people like to buy tools that they can backpack into a remote site to build bridges. So I thought we would talk about the merits of those things. And I'll offer the following opening statement. Go portable. Matthew?
I'm going to go with, I think you're heavily influenced by your ableism, and that you think that you have a driver's license, so you can put things in your truck and move them to other locations.
Fair.
For those of us without a driver's license, I think that maybe the precision of a grounded tool that, I put a nickel, do the nickel test on the table saw, which is a real thing.
Oh, no, wait, hold on. Now, what's a nickel test?
You should be able to stand a nickel up on its side, turn your table saw on, and not receive enough vibration to remove the nickel from its standing on the side. Right, you should remove the vibration enough from your system that the nickel shall remain standing on edge while your table saw is being operated.
Is this like the 2-ton map table the Army used to use?
Yes. So, so portability versus convenience versus precision is a thing, right? And so there are trade-offs to be made when you get your very classic job site saw and thrown in the back of your truck. Like, you should have fold-up legs, or maybe doesn't even need legs because you're going to put it up on 2x4s out at the job site. Right. And that's a very different operation. This is the distinction between carpentry and woodworking.
So a carpenter is not a woodworker? Wait a second here.
No, those are very different things. Very different things.
Well, so I think in general, a carpenter can be a woodworker, but a woodworker has a really tough time being a carpenter.
So one of the things they say, just because you're a woodworker doesn't mean that you can go handle a remodel job or go do somebody's kitchen, right? Like those are different skill sets.
Yeah.
So are Christians just Jewish radicals? I mean,
just which book did we read?
Yeah.
So I mean, I think it's a word. It's semantics, I guess, is my point, right? It's like, if you go into the really historic traditional semantics, like Matt mentioned, there was a distinction between the people that work in the cabinetry shop and the people that install the cabinets, right? And one was called a woodworker, and one was called a carpenter.
Yeah, and then to be fair, I am much more a carpenter than a woodworker.
And that's your choice of a portable table saw.
And I do own chisels. I do, Matthew, for the record, I do own chisels. I usually use them to remove bulk material when there's just way too much of it, and I'm hitting it with a hammer.
So I want to ask,
you can use it to prop up a door while you're putting in the hinges.
I've definitely done that because you can stick, when you're putting the hinges in, you can stick the edge of the chisel under the door, and then you can step on the handle with your foot to get the door to just the right
height,
so you can put the hinges on. Yeah.
No, you want to make sure your chiseling mallet.
I did that yesterday.
You want your chiseling mallet to have a leather surface on it, so as not to scar the chisel while malleting.
But then when you drop it in the water and it gets all wet, your mallet's going to smell bad, man.
Why do you have water anywhere near your project?
Because it rains outside where your project is.
What you'd like to do is build a roof to cover your tools while you're working.
Oh, okay. So now we're at it. So who gets there first, carpenter or woodworker? You need a carpenter to become a woodworker because you want a dry place to work. And so I got to be out there on a freaking ladder with my chisel and my wet hammer, putting up a roof so that you're.
So somebody had to.
I'm not even. I can't even.
Somebody had
Fine
to go.
woodworking workshop.
Somebody had to mine the carbon so you could have a pencil to draw your architectural picture. Where did the graphite come from? Let's go back to the origins.
Stephen, where do you fall on this? I mean, clearly Matthew wants something that's roughly the weight of a Ford Explorer, and I want something that weighs a little less than a gallon of milk. So where do you fall?
Well, I think that each opportunity, each project,
The peacemaker
is Switzerland, right?
I want to go back to so
merits its own tool.
Steven is doing the.
Let me put in. Go ahead.
Steven's approaches. I'm going to talk to you what I believe Steven's approaches, which is right. Steven, do you own a table saw?
No.
Right. It's right. Steven's whole approach is that's why there's a makerspace. Right? The makerspace is going to have a table saw, or the buddy's going to have it. Like, I don't need to own
borrow one from a buddy.
Right.
I didn't have to make a decision. I bought 3. They're all different.
And Steven's
they're in somebody else's garage.
If I'm going to do a project that needs a table saw, I'm going to buy one on Craigslist. I'm going to use it for a month, and then I'm going to sell it.
No,
right?
Perfect.
That's another strategy. So Steven, I'm sorry, I've run you over a couple of times. I wanted to hear your story.
I also have an interesting thing that often my wife will buy tools when she wants to work on projects, right? So actually, I don't own a miter saw, a compound miter saw, which is a common tool. It's my wife's compound miter saw that sits in the garage that I use.
Smart.
Right? So, but the one thing I would say that we all sort of have in common that we don't know is what they call a unicorn bag, right? And so this is a little tool bag that has the special parts that nobody else has that you're going to have at the job site, right? And so I bet, Matt, you take to your office, or Led, you take to your office, maybe a small toolkit that has special tools that you need, right? Like your favorite square or your favorite pencil.
Absolutely.
Right? And so
for me, it's my tool belt.
Yeah.
It's my tool belt. But
okay, so this is just going to be another extension of that same thing. What are you doing with the tool belt? The guys wear aprons now. You put on an apron and you have pockets right against your chest where you could put the pencils in. You have your T-square right where you need it.
You have your name right here.
You have to have the name embroidered.
So the other guys in the shop can see you.
That's right. You got to clip it on behind your back, and it's got little straps that go over your shoulders.
Hipster. You're a hipster. I accuse you.
How did the hipster burn their lips drinking the coffee? How did the hipster burn their lips drinking the coffee?
I don't know, Matthew. How did the hipster?
They drank it before it was cool.
Oh, wow.
Because they're a hipster. Because they're a hipster.
Wow.
That's the level I'm playing.
Jokes. You got some dad jokes in there.
Oh, so many dad jokes.
I thought it had something to do with the arm getting caught in the flannel sweater or something.
No, that's Portlandia. That's a different problem.
Well, it's funny that different subcultures of makers and builders and folks will then take, whether it's the apron or the tool belt, or in machinist shops, it's the Kennedy toolbox, right? So if you're a lathe operator or you're a vertical mill operator, you have to get the toolbox that shows that you've been doing it for 20 years and you have the perfect. It's like at a auto shop, you have the snap-on, rolling, $5,000, ball bearing, sliding tool chest, right? So at some point, Matt's apron or Led's tool belt becomes Well, do I have the coolest one?
Correct.
Right? Do I have
Correct.
the one that has features that Joe doesn't have? Right?
Yeah. Right. And I
No.
have to have the exact right slot for the exact right pencil. And Stephen, I was going to bridge you into the conversation. You've talked to me a number of times about this idea of um when Led and I are buying the tool, I'm thinking about it going permanently in a shop. Led's thinking about taking it out to the job site. I think one of the things going on in your head is where am I going to store it? Where is that tool going to live? And you've talked about like first order storage. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Oh, I stole that from Adam Savage, right? And
Yeah.
tested and all like that.
Yeah.
Is um, once you get to a workshop or maybe work truck, if you will, um, the system by which you store and retrieve the tools that you need, whether it's a square or a pencil or a circular saw or a table saw, you know, do I have to move five things to get to that tool, or can I see it and I can just grab it and do a visual inventory of what I'm going to need,
Right.
right? I'm going to need some clamps. I'm going to need some zapper screws, right? I'm going to need, you know, and so there are systems. I was just looking at today, whether it's a tabletop toolbox or tool chest, or whether you have a floor rolling on wheels tool chest, or how they have triangular tool chests. So instead of a traditional lid that lifts, the whole front triangle lifts and exposes a bay of tools, right? And then they have like tool racks that are like basically a pegboard on a A-frame, kind of like a ladder on wheels, right? And
That's what I've built for the shop in at school.
yeah, and Matt, you showed me some pictures. Yours look really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
And so
Steve, oh,
that's kind of what I think about when I do it. And Adam Savage has a good video on it. If you look at FOA first order of FOR first order retrieval, something you'll find it.
so you guys are both
Yeah.
truck guys now, right? Like in the last couple of years, you've both gotten trucks. And one of the systems I see on the trucks that I just scratch my head at is you spent all this time buying a truck that's going to have a bay in the back, right? You're going to have a bed in the back. And then they put in these like huge inch thick steel boxes with a floor. So you get a new floor, and then you have to pull out drawers that are 6 foot long or whatever on these giant drawer poles. I, it just confuses me. I find those very confusing. It's like Led trying to go out to the job site, but he wants to have all the tools from his shop there.
I think it totally depends on what you're trying to do. Like if you're a diesel repairman and you just need to have that, particular tool for pulling that particular spark plug on that particular engine, then you're going to want that in your truck. But for me, as a heading out to a job site, I organize by toolboxes. So I got like a carpenter toolbox, I got a machinist toolbox, I got a pneumatics toolbox, I got a hydraulics toolbox. I even have like an electronics box, I have a plumbing box, and then each of those boxes goes into the bed, depending on what job I'm going to be doing. And then whatever remaining space in the bed is for, the material you're bringing out, a piece of pipe, a piece of timber, steel section, whatever it is that you need. In fact, I
They,
just added a portable welder to our collection. It's an oxyacetylene welder that you just grab a handle. You don't need any power. You can go, you can hike a mile in and cut steel. So, but that's not going to always ride in the truck. Like the system you're talking about, everything's riding in the truck all the time. But for my system, I can throw in a generator, I can throw in a welding kit, I can throw in, material and all that, and then I just switch out toolboxes. I think
I
that's the way to go if you're going portable. That's what I think.
I've tried to do a couple of jobs over at a couple friends' houses, and boy, I'm so used to just like, oh, I need that thing over there, and I know where it is in my drawer, but I would never think to put it in the car to take it over to the job site with me, right? Like it's
Yeah.
working on site is a big challenge.
We may do a bridge on the Appalachian Trail this year that's about a half a mile in. So if it's not in your backpack or box when you leave the truck, you're probably 20 minutes at least to get in that screwdriver.
That's why we need to
And
hire a gopher, right? We hire a gopher to like go back to the truck.
Drone, right?
yeah, yeah. Well, the thing is, it inspires you to be pretty what do you want to say, creative with your tools. You know, if all you got's a screwdriver, well, it can do a lot of things.
Yeah, another factor that plays into it is a shared workspace versus a personal workspace, right? Because, um, like for me, when my wife or my family members borrow my tools, maybe they borrow a screwdriver, and then I need the same screwdriver, we're sharing, right? And we've all been there. You just sort of have to establish the rules, like, hey, please put it back where you got it so the next guy can find it, sort of thing, right? And sometimes we achieve that, and sometimes we fail.
We
But
we joke openly at our makerspace that our interns, maybe 25% of their time is spent go find the thing, right? Which we could solve through more organization or more put it back where you found it kind of rules and structures. But the interns learn a lot by having to go find the thing. I need the red T driver bit set that's sitting over in the plastic bin. I don't know where it is, but it's red. It's this big. I'll even pull up a picture on the internet and show you what it looks like. This is what you're looking for. Come back in 10 minutes when you find it.
I got sent to the truck one time to get the board stretcher. I was pretty sure that there was no such thing as a board stretcher, but
Yeah, I
uh,
learned a lot on the ADS trucks.
yeah.
but the other thing too, I find in the shared shop versus the home shop, value of tools is different, right? Like we know that over the course of the year, we're going to lose about 10% of our screwdrivers. And let's just be benevolent. Let's think that it's not malicious. That Joe is going to put the screwdriver in his toolkit when he's at one end of the shop, and then forget to put it back in the toolbox, take home his toolkit with the shop screwdriver, right? Um, so if 10% of the screwdrivers go missing every year, it's kind of budgeted and planned for in the shared space, right? But if 10% of my tools at home go missing, I'm like losing my marbles.
Right.
I'm losing it.
Yep.
Our father told the story of hanging doors at a I believe it was the VA hospital in Southeast DC, but I might be wrong. Um, and as the general manager of the job, he told the installers that whatever tools remained on their carts at the end of the job, they could keep and take home. And he found his tool loss rate plummeted. Um, and that he only had to buy one tool set for each of the door setting carpenters. And I guess in a VA hospital of any size, there's, I don't know how many doors, but it's a lot. And that he didn't have to buy additional tool sets that for that particular job. So,
Uh,
Stephen, it's like you say, once it's my tools, if you go and you mess up the end of my chisel, I'm going to be pretty unhappy, even though it's only like maybe a $4 chisel. I Matthew, I
Right.
do own some $4 chisels, I'm sorry to say.
Oh no, I do
Um,
too. They're called bench chisels, and you use them for things like beating on doors or chipping the glue off the top of your bench top or whatever, right? You need to have the cheap. If you ever find them, I believe you guys have on the East Coast a company called Aldi. You have a grocery store called Aldi.
yeah,
Um,
sure.
and once every couple years in their crazy aisle where they just have random things, they will actually have chisels. And the Aldi chisels are really good chisels. So if you ever go to Aldi and they have the $15 box of chisels, spend the $15 and buy the box of chisels at Aldi. Um, that's
Wow.
that's Matt's little nugget of
Pro
information.
tip. Pro
Yeah,
tip right
that's my
there.
pro tip for today. Um, yeah, so the shared space thing, we work in a very open environment where I know most of the students, you have to have a code to get into the room. I know most of the people who are using my space. But the tools do lay around on the tables, right? Like they don't always get put away well. And that works out fine for us in our normal day-to-day operation. This summer, um, part of our renovation was we put in HVAC. And so they came and put in like 6 mini split little systems along the wall to bring in heat and air for me into the more production oriented space. And that was great until the HVAC guys like brought in a couple sawhorses, laid out a flat piece of plywood, and like ditched all their tools on top of this, right? And then like their tools were getting mixed in with my tools, and it created a great deal of agitation for at the end of the day when they come and clean up, how many of my tools are going with them. And I was donated a couple of brooms and a dustpan. Like I got donated some stuff that wasn't mine, but they didn't take with when they left. And
Wait,
so
they
that
didn't get that little kit that I sent you, did they?
they did not, and I keep getting those for people. Those have now turned into my go-to gift for people because I think they're really awesome.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. Hey, so I was going to
We
show you a couple of tools that are in the size range that I use. Let's see if I
nice.
can share screen here.
Oh,
Well, let's
wait,
share and I'll tell a story.
please, Stephen.
We have a similar problem, Matt. We do our own internal HVAC and everything at our makerspace, and half the time the makers are looking for the tools from the facilities people, and half the time the facilities are looking for the tools from the maker people, right? So it's sort of like this seesaw sort of thing.
Yes, we have the maintenance guys, and the maintenance guys come in, and sometimes they're like, "Oh, I love your A-frame drive around cart thing. We ought to build one of those for over at our shop." Or like we'll have them come over and help us build a thing. And so there's definitely a Venn diagram with overlap, right, of the users versus the facilities guys.
Yeah. Okay, what you got, Led? That's cool.
Yeah, so this is a Delta 10-inch motorized bench saw. Oddly, I saw this for sale on Etsy for like $250. I don't know if it's like a particularly fancy one. It was a gift from a buddy. And I just really love this saw. I've been using this saw for at least 20 years. Gone through a lot of blades on it, of course, during that time, but in general, it's quite good. And it only weighs a little under 16 pounds.
Okay, so
And
we
so
have
that goes on whatever surface I've got to cut, right? It could be on a porch, it could be on just on flat on the ground. But usually I'm putting it up on a couple of sawhorses with with a a deck in between the sawhorses. And then I'm clamping things down and I'm cutting it that way. And
Stephen.
that
Wait, I want to jump to Stephen. Do you have? I have a Sesame Street question for you. What's missing on Led's table saw?
Well, all kinds of things. uh, what is it? A rive knife?
Yeah, there's no
Is
riving
that the
knife.
no rive knives? And usually there's a plastic guard that swings down over the blade,
Yeah, there should be a
a
blade, the
hinged
blade guard.
you could get
blade
killed by
guard.
one of those things.
The table saw or the blade guard?
The blade guard, you get your stuff gets jammed on there, your shirt gets caught in it, and then wham, you're dead.
Your
I
shirt,
know.
you're not supposed to wear a shirt when you're woodworking. What?
Wait, who's
He's
woodworking? I
carpentering.
thought we
He's
were
not
talking about
woodworking.
this. I thought we talked about this.
Led, somebody has cut a bunch of holes in your table saw. I think I don't understand why all these little square dog holes have been
So,
made.
have you ever heard of the story of a famous car called the Swiss cheese racer? Have
No,
you ever heard this story?
no.
Mm-mm.
So a guy he built a car for a race back in like the 1918 or 1920 or whenever it was. And he got to the racing venue, and it turned out that the car had to be below a certain weight in order to compete, and his car was way overweight. And so he just got a drill and started drilling holes in the frame because like in 1920, you're not just like going back to England and then coming back to Spain to race or whatever it was that he was doing. And the Swiss cheese racer, according to this legend anyway, uh, was um, was he never did meet the weight requirement. But this is the Swiss cheese table saw. So in order to drop the weight of the table, they've clearly put all these holes inside of there. And it's just to
Okay,
get it most portable. It's got a plastic base too, not a metal base.
there's another
Uh,
couple things I want to comment on. Your miter saw is clearly facing the wrong way. Your miter gauge, right? Your
Oh
miter
no,
gauge.
it's all facing backwards. This is so that it stores. This is to store it underneath my workbench.
And
Oh,
we're
so
and we
the fence? You're talking about the fence? Oh, and the
Yeah,
miter too.
the
And the
fence here,
miter
and
too.
the slide.
yeah, the miter gauge they call that. And that the first thing we do in the woodworking world is throw those away because that's terrible.
And you
Um,
build your own,
right,
right?
you got to build a crosscut sled, right? The crosscut sled is way better than the anyway. And then also, where is your zero clearance throat plate?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you're missing your
yeah.
zero clearance throat plate around your blade. You should lower the blade all the way down. That red piece in the middle needs to be swapped out for a piece of 3/4 plywood. Hold
Yeah,
it, clamp it
yeah,
down with the fence, raise the blade up through it, and then there's no error on either side of the blade for things to fall down into, and you'll
yeah. But
get.
you've been using this for 20 years and it's worked fine, right?
Hey, Matthew, I got a question for you. When they diagnose you, what do they tell you is wrong?
Verbose, boisterous, gregarious. These are all words they use.
So this saw has done
So many projects.
many projects. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely correct. And yeah, I'm probably not good to a 30-second. I'm probably good to no, I'm probably good to about a 30-second when I'm at my best with this one.
Yeah. So
Oh, there's
long.
no laser on it, is there?
No, no laser. This one does have a laser, but it doesn't really work. So that's my compound miter saw, I guess you'd call it.
Yeah, the same one I got.
And
My wife uses. Yeah.
I've done a tremendous amount of work with that particular model. And I mostly like it. The main reason I like it is because it has a handle on top of it that you can just grab and carry this thing. There's a handle right here, right behind there. You can't really see it too good, but you just grab it by the handle and you can carry it around, throw it in the back of your truck, hike it a mile into the woods, whatever you want to do.
I've decided that tonight's episode is just designed to torment me.
That's exactly right.
This episode is just torment Matt.
Let the record show that Matthew has discovered the purpose of the episode at minute 27.
This saw has no slider on it. Where are the tubes for it to slide on? Where's the big hinge on the back that's gonna, let you do a 15-inch cut?
No, there's no sliders on it. No.
Okay, and this looks like a 10-inch instead of a 12-inch.
Yeah, it is.
Where's the fly out wings to support the 8-foot long material?
I own the fly out wings. I just never, ever use them.
That's another sawhorse that you grab out of the truck. You craft one out of sticks.
Okay, so literally the guys that came and did my siding about 15 years ago, they drag a trailer behind them, and the trailer is only maybe 3 feet tall. And he flips over the top of the trailer lid. He flips it over, and the miter saw is permanently attached. And he just uses the trailer as his workbench for doing all of his cutting. Right? It's a slick operation. This is awesome. Next, you're going to show me a bandsaw, right? You have like a portable bandsaw.
I do have a small bandsaw, but I've never taken it into the field, so I can't claim it's portable.
Okay, they make metal cutting ones that are actually meant to be handheld bandsaws.
Portaband.
So I have a portable bandsaw. It's called a coping saw. That's
it's a reciprocating saw.
Matthew, I can also do a wide variety of work with a Sawzall. So it doesn't say Saw's some on it. It says Saw's all.
Okay, so do you have like an 8-inch dado stack that you can put on your table saw? Do you ever do the dado stack, or are you doing like the skill?
No, Matthew, you could do that with a roto zip. Why would you want a dado?
Okay, are you the guy
like an oscillating blade?
Are you the guy who takes the skill saw and makes like 10 cuts in a row and then knocks it out with the hammer?
Yeah, and gets the perfect curve. And you would look at it after you were done, and you would think, oh my God, that looks so beautiful. And all I did was I made like a half a dozen cuts or a dozen cuts with the skill saw, handheld skill saw, holding it up in the air like this, up, up, up. And then you hit it with the chisel, and then you chisel it out some, and then you get a belt sander and just whack it with the belt sander for like 2 seconds. And man, it looks like it came off a freaking furniture.
And so that's what you're doing that for your half lap joints, and right, you're making your half lap joints by knocking it out with a hammer. Oh my gosh.
That's absolutely correct. Oh. Now, the belt sander, you're right, is a little bit of gilding the lily there, because you can get pretty close with the chisel. Why would you want the belt sander, So anyway, I just thought I'd show you a few pictures there of my my various bits and pieces there.
So in your ideal world, what should a table saw weigh?
So enough that you can carry it under one arm while carrying a toolbox under the other hand. Honestly, that's like literally true. Like I can carry it in one hand on one side and toolbox on the other side while wearing a carpenter belt. That's perfect. And I did find one. Now I did go find, I will show you one other thing. Here, I'll share one more time.
They make some with wheels. I mean, you could wheel it.
So mobile base stands are a thing. You can put a mobile base stand on a table saw. It works out great. But like the
Yeah.
cast iron wing should weigh like 100 pounds, and there's one on each side, and then the main unit it's yeah, that's like your Powermatic. Yeah.
Yeah. So I
Nice.
found this one, Matthew. This one weighs 785 pounds. I
This
thought
is
you'd be into it.
this is one that's very similar to I'm looking at the Harveys. Have you ever looked at a Harvey tool?
I'm sure that's very heavy.
It is. This is a very serious tool that you're looking at here in the mobile base. This has got the 52-inch outreach on the other side. It's got the Beesmeyer style fence system to make the whole thing work great. This is a very nice piece of equipment right here. What would the English say? This is a nice piece of kit.
Nice piece of kit.
This is a nice piece of kit, right?
6,600 bucks, it says.
Well, that's because you're buying it from Home Depot.
Oh, you
Right?
think it'd be less than that at what are you buying it at Harbor Freight, Matthew? Where are you getting it?
Harvey, hang on a second. I have to look it up now.
What's the name of your thing? Harvey what?
Yeah, the Harvey Tools is what it's called. And I'll pull it up here for you so you can see the table saw that I'm actually interested in getting. It's kind of like it's not quite as bad as Timu, right? But this is the kind of table saw that I'm talking about getting. So let's go
Okay,
back.
hold on. I got a table saw here. Woo!
Yeah, that's
Four-
exactly it.
4 horsepower, Matthew?
No, I don't like the 4 horsepower because it's got dovetailed trunnions. So I'm going to go with the 3 horsepower model. But the thing that's cool about these is they offer a nickel coating on the top of the cast iron, so it'll never rust. You can just pour water on top of it,
Nice.
and the
That's
nickel.
this guy right here. The Alpha HW 110TC-36P and 52P.
Yeah, this one's okay. This one is the okay version. So and you see they've got the overhead piece, but like you have to have 5 of your buddies come over and help you move this thing around, right? Like this is not going to be
It's a
um
heavy piece of kit.
it's a real heavy
Yeah.
piece of kit, exactly so. And
Let
that's
me share for a second. I'll show you my rig.
Okay, hold on. Let's stop here. Yeah, I know. We had to have a gear geek out here.
yes,
Oh, what is that?
that's the saw stop space.
That's 2 saw stops is what you're looking at. So you got, I think Tabby, I forget what the other one's named, but it's got the aprons and the wings that Matt mentioned spreading out on the left
Oh no, you
one.
have the sliding
And
table. The sliding table feature is nice.
oh dude, that's amazing, right? And it's got outriggers, so when your work comes off, it doesn't fall on the ground. You know, on your little table saw, it falls on the ground, right? And then it's got the dust collection, you know, a big old dust vacuum, so that all the dust gets, you know, swept up in there.
So
All
how
like
much,
that.
Led? How much are you following the flesh detecting technology stuff?
Oh yeah, I know all about that. I mean, I think
Yeah.
it can be really good in student shops.
It is. I would never run a shop where I was training without it.
Yeah, so you can. I don't know if you see it. You don't see it really here, but they're all stop saws, right? So
Yes.
if you throw a hot dog in it, it'll shoot the cartridge and all like that.
So they're the
Yeah.
federal.
Have you ever shot a cartridge in your shop, Stephen?
Not me personally.
No. I
But
mean, in your shop, has anybody ever done it?
oh, often, probably once a month, if not twice a month.
And is it
And
mostly
it's
from like wet wood, or is it from
yeah,
their actual?
the first thing you said, wet wood or staples or metal in the wood will often trigger it. And then
A lot of people use brad nails, and then the brad nail sets it off.
and the other thing is that sometimes it's still active after you're cutting, and you can fire it. So if you push your, let's say, a sheet of 4x8 plywood through, right, and then you turn off the saw, as it spins down, it's still active, right? And so you could touch one of the guys touched one of the miter gauges to it, I think, or one of the miter fences to it, right? And it fired it, right? But it was spinning down at that point. So
And that
there's
wrecks
a
the
bunch of
blade.
different
Usually,
scenarios. Yeah.
what you're not bending the shaft, you're just wrecking a blade.
So
That's right.
It's got a big high compression spring. There's a block of aluminum that sits on top of the spring. When it detects it, it fires the block of aluminum into the blade, causing the blade to stop. And then the blade is ruined and the cartridge is ruined. And so it probably costs you $250 every time you set it off.
Yeah, I think guys can get them down to 150, but the shaft, the spinning spindle on the 10 horsepower motor or whatever it is, it's not affected by that, right?
Oh, okay.
It's I guess it's probably engineered. I haven't even looked at it. I would imagine that it's got two sort of bearings, one on each side, so that it's less affected by that whole scenario.
So there's big talk this summer from some of the woodworking guys. The Federal Trade Commission or whoever it is that regulates this thing, the Consumer Protection Agency, is going to start requiring it on table saws. And when you're buying a $6,000 Powermatic, adding a couple $100 for the flesh detecting isn't that big a deal. When I'm buying a $400 job site saw, right, to throw in the back of the truck, but now I've got to have an extra $300 invested in it, it changes the economics.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I would probably do if I was out on a job site that got wet regularly is I would just figure out a way to removing that thing.
Oh no, there's
They're
a
all
button.
bypassable. There's a
Yeah,
bypass switch
there's
on
a
all
button
of
that
them.
says "Let me cut my finger off."
Oh,
Yeah,
Right.
but still, I mean, I can't tell you how many times a contractor came out to fix a cabinet or a roof or a floor at my house, and they just take out the saw, looks like identical to yours lead, right? And they're running two guys in a van, so another double the price of their saw is no bueno,
no, it's not good. It's not good.
Yeah.
And so this is the whole seatbelt question, right? Like this is, and I know politics are banned on the podcast, and I love that idea, but this is really the question of seatbelts in your car, right? Is flesh detecting, is it the same kind of thing?
Well, you got to wonder how many table saw injuries a year actually occur nationally.
That's
A lot,
the
a
numbers,
lot, actually.
35 or 40,000 a year, they say.
Huh.
ER visits from table saw accidents.
My favorite is watching someone, because I go over a very tall mountain every day on the way to work. So I go up and down 1,300 feet every day. And you'll see people up there with a very safe automobile and their two children in the back seat, strapped into probably car seats that are worth hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And they're going 80 miles an hour in these very twisty mountain roads. And so I think that, policies, procedures, and care, and really speed is probably at the base of, so many of the injuries that you see in construction. Somebody's going quickly, and that's why the accident, whatever it is, table saw, could be a hammer to your thumb, whatever it is. That's often the source of the accident.
So I think we should actually do a future episode on shop safety.
That'd be great.
And the fentanyl. It's fentanyl,
Yeah, and we're
across
reaching
the border.
we're reaching the 40-minute mark here, guys.
Yeah, and I'm dragging a little bit tonight. So
Oh no, Matthew, why are you dragging?
No, I couldn't tell.
okay, you guys are awesome. You guys are good brothers. I enjoy our time together on the podcast. This is meaningful to me. Steven, you're up for the next one.
Okay, I'll come up with an idea.
So if we get that,
sweet.
if we get that done by Halloween, that would be
talk
great.
about the wife and politics and religion.
That's
and
right.
How much we make. It's going to be wonderful.
I've got serious shop envy though. Looking at your pictures there, Steven. Please don't show them to me ever again.
You want to come down? Come down anytime. I'll give you a tour.
Yeah.
Steven's
That-
gone
you-
with.
You're gonna.
That's
What are you talking about? You're gonna have the shop that everybody's envious of in a few years, right?
Yes, that's right.
2027.
I'll come up for a
26.
tour.
No, not 2027. No.
2028. Come on, government delays.
No. Okay, now that I've lost my mind, I want to thank my brothers for a fabulous podcast. And I suppose I got to clap my hands again to make this torture stop, right?
I'm looking forward to our next taboo episode where we're just going to talk about all the taboos.
2, 1.